this one. So we're going to start from the first slide, which is not this one. There you go. All right, so let's get started. And first of all, I will introduce myself. I am Serena LoPiccolo-Smith with the Inspire team of Keller Williams. And I would like to introduce you Sherry Wall. She is our loan officer with Keller Loans and Mutual Bank of Omaha. And today we're going to talk about the buying process in Massachusetts. And the goal of this meeting, or this webinar, is to give you enough information to be knowledgeable about the process and to avoid any costly mistakes, because that is the most important thing. And that is why being surrounded by a strong team, a lender, an attorney, a realtor, it's extremely important to avoid spending more money. And of course, buying a house, especially if it is your first house, it's very overwhelming. But understanding each step is absolutely crucial. So let's start with the first one, which is getting pre-approved. Now, getting pre-approved is absolutely important, unless, of course, you're buying cash. In that case, just skip this part and go directly to start the search part. But okay. It's incredibly important also because people, many sellers, many listing agents don't even let you see a house unless you can show that you are pre-approved. However, there are some differences. You could be pre-qualified or you could be pre-approved. And I would like to actually ask Sherry to step in and tell us more about the difference between pre-qualification and pre-approval.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Serena. It's so nice to be here. My name is Sherry Wall. I'm a mortgage banker, mortgage loan originator, branch manager with Keller Home Loans, and I work right out of East Sandwich here on the Cape. And I think this is a great topic to get started with because it's the first step really in the home buying process, and it's how you can begin your journey, and you should always want to begin it on a strong foot, which is having a pre-approval letter from a local lender who has taken the time to ask you all the questions like, ideally what kind of monthly payment you're looking to make, how long you've been at your job, how much money you have saved. And there's very different ways to go about this. So if you go online to an online bank or lender, you can get a pre-qualification letter pretty easily. Some of them you can just enter in your information and it will give you a pre-qualification letter. So in order to really know what your buying power is and set yourself up for success, it's really the best idea to work with a local lender and to get pre-approved, which involves filling out a mortgage application and providing your supporting documentation to your lender.
Can you share what these documents are for people so they know what to expect?
Sure, absolutely. So we usually get a form of government issued ID, like a driver's license, passport. We get 2 years of W-2s, 2 months bank statements, 30 days pay stubs, and if you're self-employed, we get 2 years tax returns. If you're divorced or separated, we'll ask for a divorce decree to see like how division of marital assets might have gone, to see what you're responsible for. Say your name is still on the deed of a home that you're not on the mortgage for, how that all kind of pans out. So those are the kinds of things that's important for us to verify up front, so to help you avoid bumps in the road and surprises during the process.
And Sherry, why do you check 2 months of bank statements? What do you want to see there?
So what we want to see is seasoned funds. Per the U.S. Patriot Act and the Anti-Money Laundering Act, all and any funds used towards a mortgage transaction must be sourced and seasoned to determine where the money has come from and be in compliance with federal and local laws.
Yeah, and season means?
What was that? Oh,
Seasoned. Yeah,
so
what does that mean?
seasoned means the money hasn't been moved around. It's to prevent money laundering and misuse of funds, fake currency. It's to trace the origin of the money to make sure that it's coming from a legitimate place.
And so let's just make an example. If somebody receives a gift from a relative to help with the down payment, is that something that is allowed?
Yes, that's a great question. That is something that's allowed. However, there are stipulations to it. We have to know that it is truly a gift, which means the donor fills out a gift letter and puts in writing that it's a gift. We have to know that the buyer hasn't taken out any new debt from, their grandmother or uncle or neighbor to say, hey, if you send me $5,000, I'll send it right back as soon as we close. We have to have documentation that it is truly a gift and that that person doesn't owe money to somebody new on top of having a mortgage.
Excellent. And anybody can give gifts. So like, could I, as the realtor, give a gift to a buyer in order to help them with their down payment?
Not in the form of I don't believe in it depends on the loan type. So that's a loaded question. It has to be from an approved source. Conventional loans are a lot more lenient on that than FHA and PA.
And then tell us more about this Offer Ready program that is specific to Keller loans.
So the Offer Ready program is wonderful because it tells the seller and the listing agent that the buyer is so serious that they have provided all of their documentation and that they've waited for the mortgage lender to verify their income, their employment, their residency, their assets. We have, confirmed a loan amount, like a firm pre-approval amount. We've seen the funds. We've gotten the letter of verification from the employer, and it's almost as good as cash, really, because it's telling the seller that it's a solid buyer. It's not just a pre-approval or pre-qualification. A pre-qualification says you've had a soft credit check done. That's pretty much it. A pre-approval says you've had a credit check done and filled out a mortgage application, and you still have to follow through though and do everything else. An offer ready is telling the seller that you have provided all of your most of the documentation that you would need, other than like title, appraisal, and things that have to do with the transaction itself.
Yeah, and I can tell you as an agent, when I see one of these, I always tell my seller, this is almost as good as cash. It's the next best thing than a cash offer. And so this is one of the best tricks, if we want to say that way, to make an offer really, really competitive. So let's move to the next step. Thank you, Sherry. That was very, very interesting. So start the search. So it's very important, first of all, to understand market trends, to understand what is going on in the market. And some markets, like Cape Cod, are seasonal. And so you will see a dip, especially in the inventory, in the number of houses that are on the market in the winter. And then as the spring comes, the number of houses starts coming up. So that is great for buyers. But the other thing that goes up is more buyers. So at the same time, there's more competition. And so it's very important, first of all, to be prepared for limited options and to be ready to act. That's why having a pre-approval or even an offer ready pre-approval, it's so important, because you can jump in right away and you can submit an offer and maybe beat other potential buyers submitting an offer quicker. Also, it's very important to develop effective bidding strategies. And that is the reason why it's very important to work with an agent, with a realtor who understands negotiation techniques and who can give you the right advice to submit a strong offer. So after you do, you find the home that you want and you're fully ready financially, then we will get together and present and write an offer. And there are many items in the offer that have to be discussed. And then there are ways to make an offer stronger. For example, when you submit an offer, there is a first earnest deposit that is owed. It's usually $1,000, but sometimes you make it higher. It can be 5,000, it can be even 10,000. I've had some transaction where for luxury listings where that first deposit was $300,000. And that is a way to signal that the buyer is very strong, is convinced that the buyers are convinced that they will not change their mind. Of course, the money is protected by the contingencies. And the contingencies are, first of all, the home inspection. So the home inspection is the first hurdle that a buyer has to jump over to get to the finish line on the closing day. However, an inspection, so some buyers choose to waive the inspection completely. And that's something that we never recommend. It's extremely important to have an inspection to, first of all, to get acquainted with the house, but also to find out if there's some hidden issues, any structural defects, any material defects, safety defects. Those must be found before moving forward and signing the purchase and sale agreement. Now, between the home inspection and the purchase and sale and the signing of the purchase and sale, customarily there are about 10 days. It could be 14, it could be more if necessary, but it's usually 10 days. During those 10 days, the buyer will be able to do all type of inspection. And it's not just the typical home inspection done by a licensed home inspector. There's others. There's a radon inspection. That's something that is prevalent on the Cape. There's pest and mold, termites. So there lead paint. There might be even a lead paint inspection in certain cases. A well water inspection, chimney. So there's many others. Again, the real estate agent can give you advice also specific to the type of house that you're buying. If it's a new construction, maybe some inspections won't be necessary, but if it is an older house, you definitely want to inspect everything as much as you can. Then between the home inspection and the purchase and sale, you will have to hire an attorney. And the attorney, together with the seller's attorney, will start drafting and negotiating a purchase and sale agreement. And when the purchase and sale agreement is signed, the second earner's money deposit is owed. Now, how much is this deposit? It could be $500. However, the higher it is, the stronger the offer will be. So many people choose to pay 3, 4, 5, even 6%, sometimes even more. And that should be given either in the form of a cashier check, or many companies now accept a direct deposit, like an ACH transfer to software companies like Deposit Link or Earnest, which make it much faster and much more secure. When the purchase and sale is signed, that's where the clock really starts ticking, because that's when the mortgage application is submitted and when the rate is locked. So the mortgage rate is locked. The interest rate is locked. And between the purchase and sale signing and the closing day, there's usually about a month. Sometimes it could be faster, especially if you already have that offer ready pre-approval, because most of your underwriting, that's what we call all that process of checking all the details and all your financial documents, it has already been done. So maybe a shorter time between this and closing will go by. The next hurdle will be the appraisal. So the appraisal is done by a licensed appraiser. Of course, your lender will order the appraisal. And within a few days, sometimes a week, a report will be provided. And this can result either in the property, in the purchase, appraising at the purchase price, and that's the best case scenario, or above purchase price, that's even better. However, sometimes that doesn't happen, and the appraiser, based on the comps that sold nearby, like within a mile, the comparable properties, that's what comps are, might decide that the house is not worth what the buyer has offered. And in that case, the buyer has a couple of options. With the lender's permission, they can make up the difference, which means that they will have to put down a higher payment with their mortgage. Let's say they're paying 20%, they might have to pay 25% or more. Or if they're paying 3.5%, or there's some type of loans like FHA loan, or also some conventional loans that are at 3.5%, that down payment will have to be higher. After that, there's the mortgage commitment. So this is one of the most important dates. It's usually, and it's often overlooked. It's usually about a week before closing. It could be even longer. And this is the latest day by which a buyer could walk away because their mortgage has not been approved, and get back the earnest money. So imagine if the earnest money put down when the purchase and sale was signed was 6%. That's a considerable amount of money. So if we lose track of this date, and we don't ask for a necessary extension, which sometimes is necessary because the underwriter might still need more documents, might still need to review more things, or the appraisal might not come in at a certain time. There might be document missing. And so if this date passes and then the loan doesn't get approved, the seller might decide to keep the earnest money deposits. And this is something that we keep an eye on. So your realtor, one of the jobs of your realtor is to make sure you don't miss any of these deadlines. And then the last hurdle before the closing day is the final walkthrough. So this usually happens the day of, the morning of, or the day before the closing. And it's an opportunity for the buyers to go in and check everything, to know all the faucet, all the switches, the dishwasher, the wash, to make sure that everything is in the same condition as they saw it during the home inspection or during the last time they visited the house. When everything is checked and found satisfactory, then the closing can happen. And usually the closing happens at the office, at the attorney's office. Now, in the past, there were these big closings with everybody sitting around the table, right? With the sellers, the buyers, the attorneys, both realtors, sometimes even the lender would show up at the closing. And sometimes that still happens. However, since COVID, many attorneys have decided not to do that anymore. And so the seller's attorney meets with the seller in advance, sign all the paperwork, the buyer's attorney, and then they meet with the buyer's attorney, and then the buyer's attorney meets with their client and finish signing up all the mortgage documents and everything that is needed. So it's very important to be fully prepared, to be very organized, to have all the necessary documents, to communicate constantly with your attorney, with your lender, with your realtor, to make sure that nothing is overlooked, nothing is forgotten. And so the moment this all happens, and then the deed is recorded at the registry of deeds, that's when the house becomes officially yours. And that's when the keys will be given to you. And so one of our promises today was to kind of go through what the most common mistakes a home buyer can make. And of course, the first one is not hiring a real estate agent, right? Because Many people think that what the agent does is to help them find a house. That is not true anymore. Now that everybody can go online and find and go and see a house, it's really not what the agent is hired for. The reason why an agent is hired is to give advice, because the most important thing, one of the common mistakes is also not listening to your agent, and keeping the deal together, keeping track of all this deadline, negotiating on your behalf. So those are all the roles of the real estate agent, and to keep the transaction together, because there are many, many things that can go wrong. And by the Murphy law, everything that can go wrong usually does go wrong. And so it's important to be with somebody competent that can help find creative solutions. Another mistake is not keeping an eye on your credit score and not being financially prepared. And Sherry can speak more to that. But in general, it's important to follow your lender's advice. And having a good lender, it's also another important part of the preparation. Looking for homes before getting pre-approved, that's another common mistake. And the problem with that is that, what if you're looking at a house that is $800,000 and then you find out that you are pre-approved for 500? That would be really, really disappointing. Or vice versa. What if you look for a house that is 500,000 and then you find out that you could pay comfortably 800,000 and buy a much better house that better suits your needs? Another mistake is not comparing mortgage rates. So one of the advice that we always give to all our clients is to shop around, like interview more than one lender. So sometimes you just go to your bank, the bank you're banking with, and just speak with their lender, and you don't ask others. You don't go to a local lender, or you don't go to a mortgage broker. They might have access to more programs, might be able to find a program that is more suitable to you and to your needs. So this is one of my first advice. Interview more than one lender, also because you don't know what you don't know. And the more people you speak with, the more questions you will learn to ask. And then buying more house than one can afford. And this is something that is important. And the next slide, we will talk a little bit more about the cost of home ownership, because it's not just the down payment, it's not just the purchase money. There's more things that one has to plan for. And then, of course, keeping the home inspection. We already kind of touched upon that. Do not skip the home inspection. It's possible that in the past, especially during COVID, when there were like 20, 30 offers per house, not requesting a home inspection was one of the things that would make an offer more competitive. However, you can still remove the offer contingency and do the home inspection. So at least you're aware of what's going on with the house. And here, the most important thing, again, is to be financially prepared. So there are, like I was saying, other costs besides the purchase price. One of them is the down payment. So depending on the loan programs, some of them, like a VA loan for veterans and active military, they have zero down. So 100% of the purchase cost is going to be financed. But all the other loans, they have at least a 3.5% down, and a traditional loan even has 20% down or more. And then there's other ongoing home ownership expenses, taxes, insurance. Usually these two are calculated in advance and then prorated month by month and included in the mortgage payments. So that would be the total mortgage payment with taxes and insurance. However, there's more, there might be more cost. There's more closing costs. There's more finance charges. And Sherry, are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Yeah, so do you want to step in and tell us a little bit more about closing costs and like what's included in them, and more or less how much somebody, because it's usually is between 2 and 5%, but sometimes it can be even more. If you want to
Correct.
step in and
Sure, yes. So that is a very multifaceted question, which is why Serena gave the advice of talking to more than one lender, because oftentimes people speak with one lender and they give them, an estimated rate and an estimated cash to close, and they don't know if that includes their down payment. They don't know if that rate includes an origination charge, if it includes discount points. Um, so there's a lot that goes into it, which is important for me. My clients, I Zoom screen share and walk them through. I'm a visual person, so I like to present visually, and most people really enjoy that opportunity to see how closing costs are broken down. And like Sardana said, 2% to 5%. I've seen them go even higher than that for non-conforming loans, like ITIN loans and DSCR loans and whatnot. There's no rule on how much you can charge, so those can go up even higher. Most typical lenders, it's going to be between 2.5 and 4.5%. But Keller Home Loans, for example, we don't charge an origination fee. We don't charge a processing fee. We don't charge an underwriting fee. And we give $1,000 lender credit for several of our programs, not just one. So when I sit with our clients, I go over that part. So there's the lender fees. And then you have what's called your prepays, where you're building your escrow account with home insurance and real estate tax, aggregate tax amounts. You have your attorney fees and settlement fees. And then you have Uncle Sam gets their part as well. In the state of Massachusetts, the sellers pay the transfer tax, but there are other taxes and fees that get calculated into the closing costs. So the closing cost is a big deal. Most people really don't have any clue so they think, okay, I have to put 20% down, which isn't the case for most loans. But then that's it. They have that 20% down in their mind, and they don't know how to budget for the rest. So that's where I come in to help them budget for the rest.
Yeah. Oh, perfect. Thank you. Very, very helpful. And then there's always additional expenses to account for. Sometimes there's association fees. Those also have to be calculated. And then, of course, all the monthly costs for your heating, cooling, electricity, internet, and whatnot. And then another thing to account for, and that's why doing a home inspection is important, is because keep in mind that not everything that the inspector will tell you is something that then we're going to go and ask the seller to repair. Most sellers say no. I mean, it's their prerogative to refuse to do any repairs. And of course, it will depend on how good your realtor is to be able to negotiate them, or negotiate repairs, or negotiate maybe a reduction of price. However, the role of the inspection is not to be able to get an ulterior reduction in the purchase price. It is for the buyer to understand how old the roof is, how old the appliances are, when the I don't know, the hot water heater will need to be replaced. And sometimes there are, within a few years, there might be some unexpected repairs, and some of them can be costly. The roof, for example, could be 20,000, could be even more, depending on how big the house is. So it's always important. I always recommend to all my clients to keep a reserve account, and every month put something in there. So if something happens and then they have to spend $12,000 all at once to replace a hot water boiler, then they have enough money. And that is why having the right team matters. So you have to have a good real estate agent. You have to have a good, excellent lender. The attorneys are also very important. We recommend a couple of attorneys to all our clients that other clients have worked with before. And we actually provide a list. And And so we are happy to share the names with anybody who's interested. And back to the lenders, Sherry, you already touched upon this, but if you want to step in just to show, so I spoke about how your agent can support you. Now, how can your lender, in this case, Keller Home Loans, support the buyer?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Sonia. I think one of the greatest things in supporting our clients is the fact that I share how empowering and incredible and how magnificent of a moment it really is to get ready to put an offer in on a home, whether it's your first home or fifth home. It's a big deal, right? So I prioritize that, and how I support you is when somebody completes a mortgage loan application, I look at it. If it's 8 o'clock for Saturday night and they take the time to fill it out and they upload those docs and I'm getting those notifications on my phone, guess what? I'm pulling that bad boy in and I'm looking at it for you, because I feel your excitement and I know what it feels like to be on the other end of the application waiting. So I act very responsively and responsibly, but I make it a point to communicate, and I make myself available.
Yeah, and I have to say, one of the reasons why I love working with you is that you don't communicate just with your client. You also communicate with us, with the realtors. And for us, one of the things I always say to my clients is that you can use any lender you want, but I want their cell phone number, because if we have that problem at the 11th hour, we have to be able to communicate with them. Same with the attorney. There are some attorneys that close up shop at 5 p.m. and then maybe it's 5 p.m. on a Friday afternoon, and they don't. Maybe the P&S is not signed, no extension has been signed. They leave, and then we don't know. I mean, the deal might fall through without that. I know it's crazy, right? I see Tim is agreeing to that. Some attorneys do that. The ones that we recommend, they don't. And so, anyway, and you also touched upon this, the 0+ loan program. So tell us a little bit more, because it's kind of incredible that there's even lender credits that you can give back to a buyer.
Oh, absolutely. And this is the most exciting part of what I do and why I love working for Keller Home Loans, and specifically with Keller Williams agents and brokerages. So the 0+ loan allows for zero origination fee, no processing fee, no underwriting fee, $1,000 lender credit. And that is all 100 provided with 100% transparency. Like I said, I Zoom screen share with our clients. I show them where the attorney fees go. I show them where all the fees go, and there is nowhere for me to hide the fees. I shop the rates in front of them. I share the screen. You know why? Because I take the base every single time, because I'm that invested in the community and want people to find affordable, accessible, amazing housing that they fall in love with. So I absolutely love 0+ loan program. That's the bread and butter of what we do, but we also offer a lot of other benefits.
So let me understand. Here it says zero origination fee and zero lender fee processing. So that means that you don't charge anything. But so that's already a saving of what? Like how much would they be saving by not paying these two fees, more or less?
Probably $2,500 at least.
And on top of that, then there's $1,000 given back. So we're talking about $33,000, $3,500.
Correct. And then there's usually a 1% origination fee inherently priced into most lenders' loans. So if it's a $600,000 loan, that's an additional $6,000 fee that's not going to be there. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. That's great. So back to us, back to the realtor. Now, it's also very important to work with a local realtor, because I like this word, hyper local knowledge. So there are specific things related to not only each area or each town, but even each neighborhood. Like, for example, right now, in this last year, in the Barnstable County on Cape Cod, they enacted a new regulation that defined some nitrogen sensitive areas. And so there's a lot of things that are happening. The homeowner might have to replace their septic system, even if they have a brand new septic system. And so if your realtor is not on top of everything that is happening, of the local regulations about the short-term rentals, for example, what if you are buying a property that you want to rent on Airbnb or Verbal or one of those, and then after you buy, you find out that the town doesn't allow it. So it's incredibly important to be guided and to work with a very knowledgeable local realtor. And then this is another thing. So this is the Inspire team does this, which is to give our buyer an additional advantage. When the market becomes really competitive, the inventory now is going up, there's more houses, but up till now and often there are very few houses there. And so we constantly look for off-market properties. So homes that are not listed on the MLS, that maybe we hear like from other local colleagues within our company, within Keller Williams, or our past clients, or we proactively go and search for more good opportunities. And we offer this to our VIP clients. So all the buyers that enter in an agreement with us will be added to this list. And if an off-market property comes along, or if we proactively go out and find one for them, they will be alerted and hopefully make an off-market deal. And then another thing, and I like to say this, so our support goes beyond the closing. So we do have clients that are with us for life. And in fact, sometimes they just call us, like the other day, like somebody called me because she was sad. She needed somebody to talk to. She decided to call her real estate agent. But often people call us because they need a plumber, they need a handyman, a painter, or they need recommendation for like the local pediatrician, right? Because somebody, especially for a buyer who moves in a new area, they don't know anybody in many cases. So they do rely on us, and we do our best to support them, like way, way beyond the closing. And just to conclude this, like, because I did say a lot of things, I talked about a lot of potential mistakes. I didn't want to scare anybody away from buying a house, because buying a house, did you know that the net worth of a homeowner is 40 times higher than a renter, that of a renter? So they did, actually, the National Association of Realtors did this study, and it looks like the net worth, median net worth of a homeowner is $396,200, and renters have a median net worth of $10,400. And not only that, historically, real estate appreciates year over year. So this graph shows, starting from the 90s, goes all the way with even a projection for next year at a national level. So this is not a local trend, it's for the entire United States. And you see that sometimes, like during 06, 07, right before the housing bubble, it went a little bit above this trend line. And then, of course, the market crashed, and it took a few years for it to go back up. And now, this is the COVID time, it just boomed and it went way above. So right now, this 2024, we are almost 10% above the trend, which might mean that prices might go down a little, but especially on Cape Cod, they've been going up at an average of 4 to 6% every year. So the sooner you buy, the more equity you will have in your house, and the more wealth you will build through real estate. So I would like to open the floor for questions. And of course, we can schedule a one-to-one buyer consultation and go in more detail about all these things. So we didn't have much time, so we didn't want to, we didn't have the time to delve too deep. We also have a free home buyer guide. It's a flip book, like a digital brochure, with a checklist and everything that you may need, and we are happy to provide to anybody who books a consultation with us. So any questions, any conversation, anything, any comment? Yes, Tim, go ahead.
A couple things. First of all, I wasn't aware of the approval ready.
Offer ready.
I'm sorry, offer ready pre-approval. That's amazing.
Amazing.
Wow, great stuff. Impressive. I also was completely unaware of the 0+ loan program. That is bravo to that as well. Good for you, Sherry. It's Keller Williams is kind of setting themselves apart. Serena, I loved the discussion about hyperlocal. I love that word. I've used that word myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked your discussion on the Title V regs and how that's so important, because you could have two properties next to each other and one could have to comply with the new regs, and the other property might be outside of the new reg zone. So you literally and you know in there so that's a thing. And discussion about the short-term rental rules just makes you, all of that makes you sound like a hyper local. And the off-market property search, brilliant, good stuff. I really like that. So you talked about at the end of scheduling the one-on-one.
Yeah.
Have you thought about trying to do something more proactive, like having a Calendly ready, or some type of a sign up? Because this is what I've found for my many years. Yeah, we can go ahead. I'm completely
Yes.
monopolizing.
No. I love that, and I would love to discuss this in more detail. I wanna, and actually, if you can stay when we're done, when we stop the recording, then we can definitely discuss that. Brenda and Sarah, do you have, and Paola too, do you have anything you want to add? You have any questions, anything at all? Okay, so why don't we stop the recording and then we can chat.
Yes.
Stopped.